So why do we assume that every kid is sick? Every kid needs therapy? Every kid has psychological problems? Whoa, I hope it's not true. So to focus primarily on psychological health is unnecessary. You assume a child is born healthy. So what do you need to give this healthy child? A moral compass. Raising children in this world today, very challenging. Parents today deserve a lot of credit. I know that there are people who are afraid to have children. They're terrified because they don't know what they're going to tell the children. How am I going to raise them? What am I going to teach them? They're going to ask questions. I don't know the answers. And so they'd rather not have children. That's pretty serious. Raising children today is very challenging. Primarily because the public opinion, the mood, the attitudes, the beliefs, or lack of belief, that is everywhere, is so negative, so valueless, that you're fighting against the current every time you try to teach your child to be good. In fact, we live under the impression that parents' primary responsibility is to make sure that the children are psychologically healthy. Morality is secondary. The primary consideration is a healthy self-image, a child who is pleased with themselves and with their lives, balanced psychologically. That's a successful child. There's only one problem with that. Can you be psychologically healthy and immoral at the same time? Or is morality really an indispensable part of sanity? So if you want a healthy child, you need to teach right from wrong. Not only happy versus depressed. You cannot have a happy person if that person is not morally clear, morally innocent. If the person doesn't feel right, then they don't feel right. So we're learning the hard way that morality, every mitzvah in the Torah, every commandment God gave, is essential to our well-being. Only a moral person can be a truly healthy person. I think that's pretty obvious. Because if your conscience bothers you, how can you possibly be healthy? And will your conscience bother you if you do something immoral? Yes, it will, even if you don't know that it's immoral. In other words, morality has a life of its own. Morality has a vibration of its own. If you do something immoral or sinful, it creates a negative vibration. You may not even be aware. Let's put it this way. We are all born innocent. Innocence is our default position. It's our true nature. When we do something that is immoral or sinful, it disturbs that sense of innocence because it produces a negative vibration, a non-innocent vibration. In other words, what is forbidden is wrong even if you don't agree, even if you're not aware that you're doing it, even if you're not aware that it's wrong. If you swallow poison, it's going to harm you, whether you know it, you agree with it, you are aware of it or not. Sin is poison. It poisons your innocence, and the loss of innocence leaves you unhealthy, unnatural. So what is the opposite of guilt? And we all know guilt is terrible. Feeling guilty, putting guilt on someone, a guilt trip, ooh, terrible. It's a terrible thing to do to somebody. Okay, so guilt is terrible. What's the opposite? What's the alternative to guilt? Innocence. Not just not guilty. Innocence. Why is guilt such a terrible feeling? Because it's so unnatural. It goes against the natural innocence with which we are born. So there are many statements about what life is, what a human being is. We are born to struggle. We are born to accomplish. We are born to be innocent. And anything that poisons that leaves us unhealthy. It's not what we were born for. So, can we raise healthy children if we don't tell them right from wrong? No, you can't. A quick example. According to the commandment of honoring parents, a child is not allowed to sit in his father's chair or mother's chair, ever, no matter how old the child is. Out of honor, out of fear, you don't sit in your father's chair. The father who says to the child, "Oh, I'm not into that, I don't mind. My chair, your chair, it doesn't matter, sit wherever you want." If the child then sits in his father's chair, will he suffer a loss of innocence? The answer is yes. Yes, he will. But he doesn't agree with it. He doesn't believe that it's a sin. He doesn't believe that it's wrong or inappropriate. And the father doesn't believe that it's inappropriate. And the father gave permission. He will feel bad anyway. And one of the ways that it'll express itself is in a loss of confidence and a loss of self-esteem, coming from a loss of identity. When we don't know who we are, how could we be happy with what we are? If you can sit in your father's chair, if you can call your father by his first name, if you can talk to your father as if he was your friend and no different, are you someone's son? Do you have a father? Are you part of a family? Who are you? The child who sits in his father's chair, even with father's permission, will suffer a loss of identity. A loss of identity is the beginning of a downhill slide. You don't know who you are, you're not happy with what you are, you're not content doing what you're doing. You start to question everything about yourself. I think if you're familiar with the song in Fiddler on the Roof, the song Tradition, the papa knows what a papa is, and the mama knows what a mama is, and the daughter knows what it means to be a daughter, and a son knows what it means to be a son. Is that a moral description? Is that a psychological description? Is that a medical description? Is that a social description? Yes. And it's also a religious description. It's all of the above. So we're making a terrible mistake in thinking that morality and sanity can exist separately, without each other. They can't. The next step is, if we need both, which one do we focus on primarily? What is the first obligation of parents? The psychological or the moral? Psychological problems need not exist. Not every child has psychological problems. When there are problems, like a medical problem, you consult a doctor, you go for healing. But if you're not sick, don't take medicine. If it's not broken, don't fix it. So why do we assume that every kid is sick? Every kid needs therapy? Every kid has psychological problems? That's not true. It's not. Whoa, I hope it's not true. So, to focus primarily on psychological health is unnecessary. You assume a child is born healthy. So, what do you need to give this healthy child? A moral compass, moral direction. How do you go from being a healthy child to being a good child to being a godly child in the service of God, not self-serving? That's the challenge. So the first thing we do in training a child is to tell them who to be grateful to, who to thank every morning for their lives, for their well-being, for whatever it is that makes them happy. Is that psychological or is that moral? Yeah, it's both. I saw this little sign in a campsite. It said, "Wisdom is seeing a beautiful sunset and knowing who to thank." Is that wisdom? Is that morality? Is that religion? Is that spiritual? You can call it whatever you want. It's good. So, our primary responsibility to our children is to teach them right from wrong. And there is no greater pleasure that you could get from your children than to see them do something good. Not just healthy. When you see your child do an act of real kindness, unprovoked, not because anybody was watching, not because there'll be a reward in it, just pure goodness. It makes up for all the pain you've had in your life. So raising children means teach them right from wrong. They will be healthier because the two are inseparable. If you enjoyed this conversation or this topic and you're looking for more information, or you want to hear it again from another angle, there is a way to do that. And that is in this book. It's all there. Order it from Amazon. You can read it, reread it, and share it. We have a Sunday night program for VIPs that you might be interested in. It's informal. It's questions and answers. It's conversation. It's really relaxed. It's really pleasant, enjoyable, informative, and kind of community-like. It's a Sunday night program. There's a Wednesday morning program for the VIPs, and there's a Wednesday night program. All of it just conversation, casual, laid back, unscripted. So join us. Take a look. Click the link below and see which of the three suits you best, and join us for some enjoyable conversation.